Hello, Frugal Force. Once again, this is Captain Frugal reporting for duty, and today I'm going to be reviewing an issue that I didn't originally intend to, but I chose to after all the stuff that's been going on, and that is the Ironheart Iron Man issue of Marvel Generations. Alright, so getting in right at the beginning, this is written by Brian Michael Bendis, and the pencils are by Marco Rudy, Simon and Kurdinsky and Nico Leon. You know, I butcher names in all my reviews, so there you go with that. Alright, so here we go into this wonderful tale of Marvel Generations with Riri Williams. It starts off right off the bat with a little bit of a dark kind of art style. I'm not a real big fan of this art. That's one thing I'm going to say right off the bat. And so anyway, she's in the falling currently. And of course, you know, she mentions about the AIR armor. She thinks she's in trouble because something's not working. Her armor's dead. And she's going to switch to manual, which is old school because, you know, everything with Riri has to be up and the absolute best. And so right off the bat here, we got some dialogue. It says, oh my god, I have no, whoa, radar. Okay. Because, you know, that's how all youth speak. I have no sensory enhancements. You know, all of a sudden, putting roller skates in the heels of my boots doesn't sound as ridiculous as it did when Tony Stark first told me to do it. Now, first of all, that's just for a little ha-ha back to the humor of the old Iron Man books. And I can understand. I have no issue with that. But my point here is she's in the air. What did that have to do with anything about roller skates whatsoever? That had no point to be there. It was like, I want to throw in this little cheap shot joke at Iron Man. Well, maybe she should have been on the ground while doing it, because being in the air had nothing to do with roller skates. So it just made no sense at all. So anyway, she ends up crashing. And then when she crashes, she realizes, you know, her armor systems are you know, her armor's still not working. And she goes, some of the armor systems must still be working, like it's in sleep mode or something. But my armor doesn't have a sleep mode because it's a self-generating enhanced bio. And that's one big point of this, is they want to rub in, you know, this is self-generating energy because of our current energy sources, you know, in the United States are just so terrible. And then we get a scene there where she's looking and realizes, whoa, I'm not in my normal place anymore. So anyway, the book continues on from there. And she's looking at her armor, seeing what the heck is going on. She wants to put it on record mode. She goes, I'm in Chicago. I have lived here my entire life. She wants a record of this because everything is different. She goes, my armor goes offline. I turn around and Chicago is decidedly different. And everything does look different. It looks very futuristic and things of that nature. And she's starting to think about, I don't have a history of such things as psychotic breaks and things like that. She goes, well, maybe it's a dimensional shift. I've never experienced one before, but I've read about them. Spider-Man has had them. He told me I might be hallucinating. Maybe I've been drugged. So she considers maybe she was hallucinating. And here's another point I want to make right off the bat, too. I can breathe. The air seems really clean. It actually tastes good. And they're going to be bringing that air up and multiple times. And then all of a sudden she's confronted by the new group of Avengers. Okay, so it's going to show them. They mention a little bit of, you know, her seeming like with her armor being old with an oil can joke. And so she's introduced to the mighty Avengers of this time period. All right. And so with that, and they do mention, they call, you know, she says, well, you can call me Ironheart. And you know, Ironheart, like Riri Williams Ironheart? With a question mark and some excitement because it's bolded a little bit. And so, because, you know, Riri is in the future now. And of course, Riri had to be something so awesome that everybody knows about it, right? Because I think that's the whole point of this book. But I'm going to talk about that more at the end. He goes, hardly anyone knows my real name. And they're like, maybe you should sit down. And, you know, she's woozy. And then all of a sudden she falls over. So the new Avengers decide to take Riri to none other than the new, well, actually not new, the Tony Stark Iron Man, but he's no longer like he used to be. So when she wakes up, she notices here, which is now Tony Stark Iron Man, but he's more like the Sorcerer Supreme. He tells her, "Good morning, do you recognize me?" And he talks to her, trying to get her to understand that, hey, it's Tony Stark. And of course, she's excited to see him. "Riri," he says, it's very good to see you." She's like, "Oh my God, you look terrible." He's like, "I'm 126 years old." And then she realized, well, then you look amazing. And so she does mention once again that the air tastes funny. Okay, so in how everything seems different. And he goes, "Well, it seems to all depend on perspective. You are visiting me. To you, the far-flung future, whereas I am stunned because I have not seen you for a very long time. So long that I had to," she goes, "Wait, this is crazy. I may have been drugged." And he tells her, "Well, you are talking to me, and I think you know this is real." And so she wants to give him a hug, and he gives him a hug. They go on a little bit of an old joke. So far we're like 13 pages in or so, and there's still really no action in this book, I might add. And so he decides they're going to talk a little bit more. Well, actually, that's about all this book is. He asks if she's hungry. She says she's starving, but she has so many questions. And he asks, how did she get there? And she doesn't know. And he said, well, I have no idea either. Okay, so they mention that. And it goes, he goes, "It could be that whatever sent you here to me is also creating an environment in which you can," I want to think of the word, "appreciate what is happening and not obsess over the how and the why. Journey over destination." Okay, and that's really what this whole book is about, is talking about her journey, but telling us and foreshadowing us her destination in the future of the Marvel Universe. And so he mentioned that he's had such experience of, dimensional time travel, and she doesn't really believe him. And by the way, he did. That's with the King Arthur. That's a classic issue. If you do want me to do a flashbacks from the stash of that classic Iron Man issue, let me know, because I do have it. All right. So anyway, he says the armor itself, he tells her, isn't dead. The armor, and he says it was nice to be reminded, had self-replicating energy sources. Notice it was nice to be reminded. They had to remind us again that it's self-replicating energy sources to keep its cores running. But my world energy shield is probably blocking them from working properly. Sorry, small price to pay for energy-regulated world peace. Once again, notice his world energy shield, this protective energy shield, is worth it to pay the price for energy-regulated world peace. So we've been hit again with clean air, and we've been hit again with world peace. She's like, so he goes, and you're not having any luck hooking up to your artificial intelligence because you are still working off the GPU, Deep Learning Data Server System. And I got rid of the internet years ago. Notice that. He got rid of the internet years ago. She goes, you got rid of the internet? He's like, oh yeah, it was terrible. Everyone hated it. I replaced it with something better. My guess is he replaced it with something that blocks everybody that disagrees with him. Because that's the Marvel way, right? Marvel probably is not a big fan of the internet right now, because anybody that tells them anything that criticizes their book, they're just going to block you and then talk bad about you. So that's probably the Bendis view of perfect internet. Anyway, and so he mentioned, she gets to see it a little bit, and he's not going to tell her how it works, so. And so she asks, well, what are you supposed to be now? He goes, not to be braggy, but I am the Sorcerer Supreme. So now he's gotten so far with this technology, he's now become Sorcerer Supreme. It doesn't really get into how he's done that. Okay. But anyway, he gets her armor up and going, makes a few modifications that he says she won't be able to take with her, and that she can't record it. So anyway, he wants to have her take a ride and show her some stuff, to answer some questions. All right, so as he's doing that, he's chatting with her. And she goes, well, what happened here? He goes, oh yeah, years ago, the Avengers expanded across the galaxy, and we finally defeated Thanos, once and for all. But here's where it gets interesting. We saved the alien species, and in return, they presented us with some of their they're these plants and stuff. I'm not going to read every word for word. And these plants completely eat all the pollution in the atmosphere. So I want to make another point here. An alien species. Remember, he's all about, Marvel right now, letting people in the borders and all that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but there's a right way to do that. And he's big open borders, so they had to use the alien thing. And of course, an alien is the one to help create the thing that saves our Earth, our oxygen and everything. Catch that. That's a point. That's a Bendis SJW point there. Don't let that go over your head and miss it. All right? So he mentions that, and it's cleaning out their atmosphere. Okay? And it's making everything so great. And then you turn the page, and he continues on, and really got to really pay attention to the stuff that's said in this book. It says, the vague and less complicated versions is, we took all the money being earmarked for weapons and military and in quotes, world peacekeeping, and instead gave it to everyone working on a project that had futuristic possibilities. Of those people, 22% scammed me hard and kept the money, or tried. The others delivered. So here's another point he had to make in his book. They had to take all of our defenses away, the money that's marked for our weapons and military that protect us, to invest in world peacekeeping. Now, so far we've had super clean oxygen because of aliens. We've had new renewable energy because it's the best way in the future. And now we've gotten rid of all the military and weapons to protect ourselves. And that made everything wonderful. I hope you catch the tone of this. So anyway, they run into Morgan Le Fay, and I'm not going to get into a whole lot of detail about that because it really wasn't anything that interesting, much more than pretty much just him pulling out something in a chat. There was no fight or anything, and then she left. Okay, because I underestimated you, Tony Stark. And I will say the paneling for this book, I'm going to talk about that too towards the end and how they did the paneling and things as well. And I want to hit these major issues first. So anyway, she takes off. And so he's like, whew. And Riri's like, oh, that was amazing. He's like, my new goal for the last 10 years has been to not lift a finger in battle. Just be proactively ready for it. Because in the SJW world, nothing will ever go wrong if we're proactive. Think about that. I totally lost a taste for being punched in the face, he said. Well, who likes being punched in the face? Nobody. And that's part of the thing. Once again, we get just more hits and more hits of, things to come in the Bendis worldview. So I'm going to skip through a little bit farther than that after they have some chat. They don't want to tell her about her future. She knows some glimpses, but they don't want to give her too much details. And so when he run into the new Avengers again, so they fly off there, and they're going to meet Franklin Richards to see if there's still a time travel machine. So anyway, there isn't that time travel machine there, and they chat a little bit, so anyway, Strange is like, no, I told you I don't know how you got here to Riri, because she's still wondering how you got here. But he's like, well, I know why you're here. I told you, you have had similar experiences. I've had similar experiences in my life. So has Franklin. I believe that when you're thrown somewhere you're not supposed to be, whether accidentally, walking down a road or wrong road, or through the wrong door, or yes, thrown into the far-flung future, yeah, I said it again, I think it's all for a reason. Like this whole book. This whole book is for a reason, and that's to teach us a lesson. He says, that was at old age. He goes, that's what old age has told me. It's an opportunity. It's all for a purpose. Because Bendis thinks he's smarter than everybody, of course. And what happened to me when I was sent back to the grand old days of King Arthur's court, with no one at my side but the greatest villain in the history of the planet Earth. And then Franklin's like, oh dear, Galactus? Right? And he goes, when I was sent to the past, I was in a bit of a crisis of conscience. I was having trouble with recovery, and I was having a hard time focusing on my work. Now here's another thing. Maybe Marvel should quit focusing on all the crap that doesn't have anything to do with them and focus on their work, and this comic could have been better. A lot of their comics could have been better. Well, anyway, he's talking about having perspective. But back there, I was given perspective. This is Bendis. This whole issue is Bendis trying to give you perspective. Us, perspective. What we need to know. That's really all this book is. This was not a comic book. This is a PSA. It says, but back there, I was given perspective. I was witness to how far we've come. How much technology had saved us from ourselves and how it illuminated truths about our existence we didn't even know needed illuminating yet. But Bendis is so smart, he knows we need this illumination. You don't, evidently. And I don't. I needed to go back there to see how far we've come to focus myself on where I needed to go, and I think you were sent here for the same thing. Inspiration. You got the peek behind the curtain, and if this doesn't send you on an inventor's tear, then you're not the futurist everyone in our galaxy thinks you are. Notice that. In our galaxy thinks you are. Wait, Riri says, everyone in the galaxy? And Tony's like, oops. So what they're saying is Riri is so important. She's absolutely essential to everyone in the galaxy. And so then they decide they've got to try to figure out how to send her home. All of a sudden, boom, something happens. We don't really see what happens, but Riri is teleported back to the present. And she's like, oh, thank goodness her systems are back online. And then we cut from there and we see her working in her lab because now, since she's seen the future, she's motivated, she has focus, and she's making great things. Yes, that's what we see. And we see something that she's generated, which is something pretty much that she saw in the future. And it's all about focus. And that's the end. So anyway, this book was all about Bendis telling you how the future should be because we need to listen to him and other SJWs. We've gotten clean air hammered in our heads multiple times because aliens gave us that. Think about that correlation. The internet was bad because you can disagree with them and they have to block you. The art in this book was mediocre. I also really didn't care for a lot of the panel layouts, and I wasn't a big fan of the coloring either. The story was slow, boring. It really didn't have any action. As I said, this whole book was a lecture telling us how great Riri is, how important she is to the Marvel Universe, and even more so, how SJWs and their views are all right, and we need perspective. The heroes, they mentioned in this book too that they convinced the government that we are heading to a man-made apocalypse. I held that out until right now because I wanted to hammer this home. The heroes convinced the government that we're heading to a man-made apocalypse. Once again, air, energy, they took away our weapons and defense because we're heading towards a man-made apocalypse. This was an SJW liberal lesson plan for every reader. This was not a story. This was not the point. This was to tell us, Brian Michael Bendis says this is what we should do. Otherwise, we are heading for a man-made apocalypse, people. That's what he said. These things, these remove weapons, was a cheap shot. Absolutely. And then there was also other little things, too, that I didn't want to go into too much about, but little things about being sexist, okay? By looking at Riri, the young Black Panther guy, looking at her with his eyebrows, the way he looked at her. He aimed those, I see how you aim those eyebrows at me. I mean, come on, that was cringe. So it had some cringy dialogue as well. The whole issue is really nothing more than telling us Riri is great, here's a PSA, learn from us. We are never shown either how Riri was teleported to the future or brought back, because it's a bullcrap philosophy. Okay, there was no one. She was probably tripping balls, if you will, on marijuana or whatever drug, because this book must have been on a drug high when being written, to think that somebody would actually want to read this. This book is nothing but a lecture on how great everything will be if you agree with the SJW's liberal Bendis, and he has the right to take over. This is it. That's the liberal agenda book right here. And the reason we probably, as I said, can't see how she came back into the past, in the future and back to the present, is because it never existed. It was malarkey in the first place. She was probably on a drug trip, because that's how these people think. They're in that echo chamber in their drug trip and have no clue how the world really works. All right, so I think you figured out how I feel about this book. This book is pretty offensive, but I'm not going to completely annihilate it. It doesn't quite get that F score. I'm going to give this book a D minus. Yeah, a D minus, because it had some interesting parts with him turning like the Sorcerer Supreme, which, you know, it wasn't just him being in the future with more robotics, which I would have expected. So it gave a couple little twists that you wouldn't expect. That's the only reason it got a D minus, other than an F and got shot or blown up. This book, once again, is a lecture. That's all it is, a lecture trying to sell you something as a story. It's garbage. I don't recommend buying it. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope this helps keep you from wasting your money. If you did enjoy this video, please be sure to hit like and subscribe and hit that notifications bell, because as you know, YouTube doesn't tend to like to spread the word about me very much. Also, I don't play any advertisements on these videos, so if you want to help support me, go over to my VidMe channel, and you can subscribe there for as little as $1 a month, or even give me a one-time tip. And if you like this, please check out more reviews and things like this at thehenchmenslounge.com. And until next time, keep it frugal.